Hello, everyone, and welcome to In the Flow with spiritual CFO Robin Wilt and Jessica Kay from the Heart of Jessica. We are super amped tonight, and we've got the puppy with us. This is our second part in our series on Chiron. So now we are going to talk about Chiron and the signs and houses. And Chiron is every 50.6 years. That's how frequently it rotates through. So we're not really going to experience it through all the signs, but it will be in your house. So we're going to combine those two. So the sign that goes with the house, and that's how we're going to move through the 12 signs and the 12 houses to really give us an understanding of how Chiron is showing up in our lives and what it is that we chose to work on with this wounding.
Yeah, let's get into the good stuff.
Right?
All right, so we're just going to dive right in.
Unless there's any nuggets that come up for you, anything you want to say.
No, I'm all about it. Let's be about it. So, first sign that we have of the zodiac is Aries. So, if we think about Aries, Aries is very much a leadership energy, right? It can be me. I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to achieve the all the goals in my life. So, Chiron in Aries can be that maybe fear, right, of being a leader or fear of standing in your power. Or it could go the opposite way. Like you could be kind of an egomaniac, and I say this with love. Or you could be somebody who kind of constantly defers to that, right? Like you always want to be in that limelight. You want to be in the spotlight. And we're going to keep these like, pretty, I hate to say basic, right? But we're not going to go like down a huge rabbit hole with each one. We just want to kind of give you an overview of like what it's going to look like in the signs slash houses. So Jessica, do you want to take the first house if your Chiron is in the first house?
And I'll also piggyback on what you just said. This is supposed to just spark you. So go and look. There's tons of great books and stuff online to get you, it's all about what do you hear? What do you read that really sparks you on your own journey? And as you delve into it, you may want to read something else or listen to something else. So let this just be the catalyst that ignites you on your journey to explore Chiron. Or for those seasoned Chiron travelers, maybe something that we say will bring something else up for you to help you on this journey. So it's just meant to be a little bit of a guide or a catalyst for you as you're working with it. So when we look at Chiron in the first house, the first house is really about our identity, who we are as the self. And so some of the questions can be like, who am I? Like maybe we don't really know who we are, or we've never really fit in, or who we are is not accepted. So that's really where we get that wounding is we are not accepted for ourselves. And that can result in two things. Either we're, reactive. So I'm going to throw who I am in your face and I don't care what you think about it. Or that repressive tendency to just kind of go in and mold yourself to whatever's around you and not really know who you truly are. So it's really important that you really dig into and know who you are, that self-awareness, because in the process of doing this, we find our shadows, but we also find our gifts. And so when we can truly understand ourselves and who we are in this first house, we realize that there's so many gifts for us to give to others. And that's going to be what we're sharing out of this wounded healer. So it's this idea that, we are our own being. But we are connected. So we may not be like everybody else, but with everyone, there are commonalities and there are differences. So instead of feeling completely alienated, what we need to do is look at that interdependence and interconnectedness and really realize that the strength comes from where we're connected and also from where we're different. That's how we really, can function in the world. And that is the gift that we can bring too, is like valuing everybody's differences and valuing the way that we're connected to each other. So that is also one of the big strengths about having Chiron in this first house is you can see things differently and you can bringing your perspective, your unique perspective allows people to see themselves differently. So it helps them heal in ways because they have that different perspective. So it is really around feeling safe in who you are, valuing your worthiness in being different and being connected and similar, and just really embracing yourself and nurturing that difference that you are and seeing how it does fit into this world. Because once again, your soul chose this for its unique gifts and its unique challenges. So there is something really important about who you are and how you express that in the world. And it is needed at this time to be here to help heal.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to say, like while we're early on, is that the signs don't exactly equal the houses, but the themes, right? So as we're going through this, that's why we're combining the two, because the houses, like house one is very similar energy to Aries energy. So just kind of keep that in mind too. Like Jessica was saying, just pick out the things that resonate with you and then continue your exploration. Because, right, Jessica and I have the same sign of our Chiron, but it has manifested in different ways because of other aspects, because of the other houses, or because of the houses that it's in. So just, right, there's so much that goes into astrology. All
And we're
right,
also
so
similar in age. So that's where it does, it does sit in each sign for a period. So there is going to be some similarities, but the houses will be different. And what was the other thing I was going to say? The other thing too is as we go through this, Robin is going to talk about the signs and I'm going to talk about the houses. So you can kind of clip through and catch your house and catch your sign based on who's talking. We'll be talking about the different aspects of it. So that's one way to kind of track through this podcast for you.
yeah. So Chiron and Taurus, this is going to be a lot about wealth, finance. It can also be a lot about your physical body. So, right, feeling safe in your body, feeling a disconnection. A lot of people that I've worked with that have Chiron and Taurus, it's that like not being able to be embodied and not feeling safe in the body. Um, so let's talk about right, because Taurus is that sign of like comfort, wanting to have material goods, wanting to have that wealth and that financial stability. So maybe in a weird way you don't actually feel safe having those things, right? Like we're not saying any of these things make logical sense. When we have these woundings, sometimes it's like, well, why would I choose that, right? Like it doesn't make logical sense, but this is how it can kind of play out, right? Like if you didn't feel safe in childhood, if you didn't feel like you had everything you needed financially in your family, when you grow older, like if you have that financial stability, it might actually feel weird to you and it might actually trigger you. So subconsciously, you could be doing things to push that wealth and to push that prosperity away from yourself. And then also the body aspect, right? And feeling safe, actually putting yourself in situations that aren't safe for you or feeling like overly triggered by everything. There's always the two different sides of the coin on this one. What do you on the second house, Jessica? What are you?
So on the second house, and I will say you're spot on, Chiron is non-linear, so it's not going to make sense. We've just got to feel like how we're going to work through this. And that's really, it's intuitive based. It's really right brain on how we work through this stuff. So when we look at the second house, financial, physical security, and also value. So what are we valuing? And this is where I mentioned worthiness is an aspect in all of these. You're going to hear some similar themes, but really in this house, it is about valuing who we are. And that idea that maybe in our childhood, in a past life, we were not valued for who we were. We were told we didn't matter and how we were functioning in the world was not valued. So then it's like, okay, well, that triangulation of I need to shift who I am so that I can be valued. So we're seeking that external validation around things that aren't even us. So it can feel very, like you said, disorienting, disembodying. So this second house is really about getting truly aware of what we value and where we stand. And that also like that, reactive and repressive. So I don't value anything. I don't want to have anything to do with it, that reactive, or, overvaluing everything and kind of turning in that way. So these all have like this spectrum of response and how we look at things. Um, and then wounding around our money. So this is around our ability to earn money. So we may have tons of money and not be able to function well and feel rejected because we had lots of money, or we may have no money and feel the rejection because we were poor and we don't know how to function. So either way, it's like that financial stability, whether we have a lot or a little, we're going to feel that dissonance. We're going to feel like we're not accepted and we're not worthy. And a lot of that is perception if it's in this specific house. So it may be that you're overly sensitive to people's opinions about your value and about your finances. And that's where it's, one of those things where you're like, okay, this is my wounding. So I'm going to provide myself extra love, extra forgiveness, extra nurturing around this, because we're going to take that, anything that hits that wounding, that vulnerability, we're going to take a little bit more seriously, and we're going to be a little bit more reactionary towards it. So it's also this idea of being too generous or too stingy. So if you feel like you're like just giving away everything and you don't have anything, then there could be wounding around that, because it's important that we're taking care of our own needs. And then if we're not giving anything, like everybody has something to give, it doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be time. Like there's so many ways that we can give in an active or passive way. So everybody has something to give. And then looking at that, like, where can we give and feel whole around that? So really it's about creating this idea around our own personal value, where we can have flow around giving and receiving, and really setting those good boundaries around that. And then knowing truly, when we become more and more aware of our own worthiness and our own wealth, like our internal wealth, then we can feel better about how we move about in the world, and other people's opinions don't affect us as much. So as always, self-awareness is a great way to address this. And then it is okay if our values don't align with everyone else's, and just sitting that, like, it's okay to have different values and not really judging people, allowing there to be a variety of ways for people to have different values around things. And it doesn't mean that they're good or bad, or that we're good or bad. So it's like anytime we're drawing hard lines around stuff, that's where our wounding is kicking in. So you use that as an opportunity for self-awareness. Like, am I allowed to be me? And are other people allowed to be themselves around me? And that's where we know, like, oh, am I in my wounding, or am I in my alignment?
Yeah. Okay, so third sign is Gemini. So Gemini is all about communication. It's also about our early childhood learning. It's about how we think. So weak with Chiron and Gemini, it could be a fear of communicating. It could be communicating in a way that we're not actually able to hear other people's opinions or their perspectives, right? Like we just immediately kind of shut it off. Could be, wounding in early childhood with, maybe feeling like you couldn't understand the way that things were being taught to you. So, you could have been diagnosed with some kind of learning disability or neurodivergency, or just right, just different things that could have shown up that were kind of quantified by, your school or by your educators. Um, it's also the way that you think. So again, that perception is so powerful. So like maybe people are communicating to you and you're perceiving it in a different way based on this wounding. And also the expression, right? Gemini can be, I'm a Gemini, right? So I'm always like talking with my hands. So like Gemini wants to be expressive. And, even though like it's important to hear other people's perspectives, right? So it could either like having an over identification with other people's opinions, or like what we just talked about a second ago, where you're like, nope, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to pay attention to that. So, right, it's important to have that balance kind of between the two, and understanding those. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to share. Yep, that's all I have on the sign.
All right. So as we move into the third house, the wounding is around speaking and communicating. So it's important to have a good sense of humor, especially in this, around how we communicate, how we interact, because our thinking, our expression, our communication is going to be the place of wounding around vulnerability. So once again, we were told we're not allowed to talk, that what we have to say is not important, the way we're thinking is wrong, we're not seeing things right. And that once again results, like Robin said, like the reactive, like, of course I'm right and nobody else is right and you're wrong. So like that really reactive, or this constant reviewing of everything and okay, checking like, is it okay to think this way? Is it okay to feel this way? And really kind of shifting you into molding other people, being a part of other people's thoughts and expressions and not speaking your own truth. So that really is the important aspect in the third house is speaking your own truth. So you have to come into alignment with what that is and allow it to flow freely, to express your truth, to speak your truth, to communicate your truth. And also your thought process and your perceptions are non-linear. So they're going to be kind of out of the box and feeling okay with not falling in line with how everything else is, especially because there's wounding around that. So really embracing yourself, forgiving yourself for, following other people's opinions and expressions, because that's what felt safe. That's what's kept you safe this whole time is, okay, I'm just going to fall in line. I'm not going to be different because it doesn't feel safe. So that's where we fall into the vulnerability of speaking our own truth can feel very vulnerable. Right now we've got Mercury, Chiron, North Node in Aries. So it's really going to be a time for these, for those of you that are in that third house with your Chiron, about feeling vulnerable about speaking your truth, feeling vulnerable about thinking something that's different. So it could even be like, I'm going to think a different thought and having a reaction to that, not even having it expressed. So just being safe with yourself, I'm like, okay, I get it. Like there's a reason that I'm feeling this way. And I'm going to sit with myself as I move through this trauma around speaking my truth. And then finding safe spaces to be able to speak your truth and that allow you to present who you are and express yourself. That's where creativity can come into this. It can be group circles that are safe, but it's really important to healing that to be able to start understanding who you truly are and then expressing that to those around you. So, and they also say, your mind is linked to your emotions. So allowing that to flow freely and feeling very comfortable with expressing your emotion, which can be challenging, especially in the world we live in today. It's not something that's usually supported or, be balanced, keep your emotions to yourself, but finding safe places where you can actually do that. You can express your emotions, you can express what's on your mind so you don't feel overloaded. And it's okay to think outside the box. In the world today, we're more connected than we've ever been. So finding that community that supports you and then seeing how you blossom as a result of allowing that free communication and that free speech and those free thoughts to flow from you. It will really help you learn a lot more and process information better. So yeah, that's my third house.
All right. So Chiron in Cancer. Cancer is all about the home and feeling accepted and nurtured by our family. So you could have felt distance from your family. You could have felt like they didn't accept you, like you just never kind of fit in or felt comfortable in your home environment. Or right, maybe you didn't have a home. Maybe you moved around from place to place. There's just something there with like the core wounding of feeling home, feeling at home. It can also be related to your mother. Cancer rules the moon, which is, a lot around, right? It's that nurturing motherly energy. So not feeling like you were nurtured. Maybe you then over nurture other people, right? Because you're constantly, we mirror, like we project kind of out what we are desiring for ourselves. We can project that onto other people. What else? Yeah, so maybe again, like going back to the home, for some of us, right, having a home that we're in consistently can feel very supportive, but for people with Chiron and Cancer, it could be hard for you to actually say like, oh, I'm going to buy a home or I'm actually going to settle down and like be in a place for some time. You could find yourself like kind of constantly jumping around, just not having that comfort and that nurturing that, that I believe that we should feel in a home of some sort, right? Whether that's whatever that is for you, but having that safety and feeling that security in your home environment.
And as we look at the fourth house, it does have that home, but there's also the ancestors and the mother energy is present there and the family. So this is where we look at where is that wounding from our ancestors? Maybe what we're experiencing is not from our childhood or our past lives, but it's an ancestral wounding. So it really is not going to have any rhyme or reason. It's just going to be something that we may see through our family line. It can also be wounding around the mother. So having a mother, not having a mother, or our interaction with the mother that's affecting us, along with how we feel accepted and held by our family. So maybe the family's too involved in telling us what to do and how to do and really repressing us, or not involved at all. So we're not feeling validated at all in that family environment, which then makes anybody who gets close to us in those ways feel very unsafe. So it is about safety at home and the wounding around not feeling safe at home. And I even read somewhere where they talked about sometimes people with displacement can have been, be refugees. So they were in a war zone and they lost their home.
Mm.
Or, maybe there's some galactic trauma around losing your home and being, taken as, refugees. So all of this wounding around not feeling like you belong, not feeling like you have a safe place to be, to live, to exist, to grow, to feel nurtured, or not feeling like you got enough nurturing and love. These are all aspects of this fourth house. Also, the idea of the black sheep of the family. You don't fit in. Everybody else may fit in, but for some reason you don't fit in. You are kind of shunned away. You don't think like your family does, and you don't have the same values. So there's a tendency when this happens to detach from our own needs because it can be so overwhelming, the psychic trauma of not being accepted and not having nurturing in family, that we just detach from it because it's so loud. So then we're not connected to what our needs are. We're not aware because we didn't have the role modeling on how to nurture ourselves. So it's interesting when one of the key things to help heal these wounds is to nurture ourselves and become self-aware, and you don't have a good role model for that. So some of the ideas around that is finding a good role model of that mothering, nurturing, really divine feminine. And then even going inside and finding that nurturing mother aspect of yourself and working with yourself to nurture yourself and really healing that wounding once we're aware of what that looks like. Um, Also, this idea where we can internalize our feelings and emotions and really isolate ourselves because it's safer to just be by yourself and accept that no one else is going to understand us and we don't belong. So that's another thing, is finding that connection outside of ourselves and trusting that there are people out there that can love and nurture and be a part of us, but also not expecting, we look at repressive and reactive. So not saying, okay, you can nurture all of me. I'm just going to give you that job. Like not doing that, but also not saying nobody can help me and save me, only me. I'm only here for myself, but having those healthy boundaries around taking care of ourselves, self-nurturing, but also being willing to engage with others and find a family outside of ourselves. So that engagement with the world around us can be really healing. So create a home for yourself and find ways that you feel nurtured and start attending to that, specifically with this fourth house.
Yeah. All right. So Chiron and Leo. Leo is right. Leo wants to be seen. Leo wants to be acknowledged, right? We think of Leo, it's like up on the stage and, like, here I am. It's kind of check me out and all the cool stuff I'm doing, right? It can be like a very confident sign, having courage to, yeah, to be very expressive. So having that wounding, you may not feel seen by people. You may not feel empowered by people or by yourself even, right? Um, it could cause you to like overly seek praise and recognition from others or to kind of shy away from it. Um, you could kind of mitigate or like ignore your own successes, like, oh, I don't want to be acknowledged for this. I don't want to be in the limelight, Right, Leo energy, we all have this in our chart somewhere. So like in that aspect of your life, like there's this part of us that wants to be seen and acknowledged. So kind of cutting yourself off from that can be, it can, I would imagine that could feel pretty discouraging, right? If you're not allowing your gifts and your abilities to shine. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to let you move into that because I have a feeling you'll cover it. So I'm keeping the sign information fairly short because yeah, the houses can kind of give us that deeper understanding. So if you want to take it away on the house, Jessica.
Yeah, definitely. So the fifth house. Fifth house, we've got creativity, we've got sexuality, we've got, that artistry. So it's a really powerful, creative, fun, and playful house. So imagine what it's like to have wounding in this really transformative house in our astrology. So that looks like, you may have been very creative. You may have put that out there, that expression, and it was met with disapproval. Or why are you wasting your time doing that? It's not productive. So think about all that languaging that somebody could have received and, disapproval around that. So then it's like, okay, it's not safe to be artistic, to be creative, to be sensual. It's not safe to even be around other people. Like romance may not be safe. And when we think about that, that's that juiciness, that's that creative juices in life, that's that juicy sexuality expression. And if we have wounding around it, then we can feel awkward and we can feel unsafe. And it's one of the most vulnerable places. We think about, what we create, our art, how we express ourselves, and even our sexuality. It is a very tender place for many people. So having wounding in there can really stunt you. And then, what does that look like? Overly sexual, pushing everything out, or it can be this internalized like coldness, cut off from those creative juices and that inspiration and not feeling in the flow. So this is a really important house. And if we have wounding, we can feel very inhibited about our lives in general. We can feel like we're kind of put closed down in this box, that we're not really experiencing the fullness of our lives. And it can feel very shallow and unfulfilling and uninteresting even to us. And then there's that urge to create and to express and to have. So it's like we're constantly in this battle of, nope, it's not safe to share it. And if I do, I'm going to feel vulnerable. So there's just a lot of pressure with this house. So one of the ways that we can heal this area, the inner child is that playful aspect of us. So when we do inner child healing, it can help with all 12 of these houses, but it can really help with this fifth house where we get to be with that inner child and we get to play and we get to be silly and we get to feel vulnerable. And that may only feel safe when we do it with ourselves. So that's fine. Take some time alone where nobody can see you and you can draw and you can create and you can feel that juiciness to life. And then you don't have to show anybody. It's about, that's getting self-aware about what does it feel like to be creative? What does it feel like to be this way? And as we're able to espouse it more and we heal that wound, then we'll feel more compelled to share in a safe space and to reach out so that we can be seen. Because in that fifth house, it is about being able for the world to see the creativity and the expression and the sensuality of us and who we are in our fullness. And that's really where we can be really magnetic and dynamic. So it is our gift to share with the world. And it's also our gift to help people find their creativity, to tap into that juiciness. And as we heal through this, we're more able to help others heal through it. So, the other thing with this is we could be learning lessons through our lovers, through those that we engage with. They're going to teach us those lessons around, our sexuality, our sensuality, those aspects of ourselves. They may not always be easy lessons, but there's an opportunity to look at what's coming up when you're interacting with others, and they will help you heal this wounding. Whether they're trying to be helpful or not, there's little things that we can glean from it. But we may have difficulty around romance. And that's part of this. So just being kind and gentle with ourselves, really checking in, doing a lot of nurturing and self-care around going into relationship or maybe not wanting to be in relationship so that we can heal a little bit more because each relationship is going to bring up something different. really embracing that inner child will help. And the other thing too with this is how do we express ourselves creativity with authenticity and the fact that it's okay for us to take up space in the world. Like what we have to say and what we have to create is so important. So it's okay to just show up and to share it. So I think, yeah. Oh, and the final last thing is, there is this fear of rejection and heartbreak, but when we lean into being carefree and lean into that inner child, we can really move through the world a little bit easier. So that's what I got on the fifth house.
Awesome. All right. So moving into Virgo. So Virgo is, I would imagine this one can be challenging. So Virgo is that very perfectionistic, like can be overly critical kind of energy. Um, Virgo is also ruled by Mercury, so there can be the component of the communication aspect and like wanting communication to be perfect. Um, and right, having an attention to detail isn't a bad thing, but when it's in Chiron, it's almost like you worry so much about things being perfect that you never take action, that you never allow yourself to experience things because you're like, right, like that obsessive compulsive, like I'm just going to think about it and just mentally masturbate over, over and over and over again before I actually ever even do anything. So you're like giving yourself anxiety and, kind of freak out because you're wanting everything to be perfect. It can also be like hypercritical of yourself and or others. And it's also like your sixth house. Well, I'll let you talk about the house, but I'll go back to Virgo. So Virgo is also the energy of service. So it could be right again, like that overgiving or the undergiving. I would imagine it's probably more of an overgiving. And if y'all have these, drop in the comment box. Like, there's like we said, there's so many different ways that this kind of pans out. But I'm always excited to hear how these things actually manifest for people in the physical, because I don't know if I'm thinking of anybody that I know in my life that has Virgo Chiron. So, but yeah, let us know because, like I said, I would imagine this one would be pretty challenging. Let me see what else. Yeah, that's all I want to share about Virgo.
Yeah. So the sixth house, this is where mine lives. So it's that whole idea of service to others, but there's that boundary. Like, and usually there's one way or the other. You're either giving too much to the point where, you're giving it and there's nothing left for you, or you're on the other side where you're taking everything from everyone and there's no giving. So it is really about finding that balance of giving and receiving, nurturing ourselves, and then also giving back, because that's going to be our service to others. One of the other things too is it just fell out of the body. So this is really around healing ourselves and our body. And that's where this really rings true, because I have all of these strange body things that when I'm like, hey, I'm feeling this or I'm feeling that. And they're like, well, we don't see it on our charts, or we don't, and it was a big deal for me to say, well, this is how I'm feeling, and I'm going to seek out whatever I need to. So for me, that was alternative methods of healing, acupuncture, chiropractic, really saying, okay, I trust myself that there is pain here, and I'm going to go into that and see how I can heal it. Other ways can just be shamanically journeying through the body to heal wherever that dissonance is. It may be psychic pain, it may be physical pain. Like, who knows where this is coming from, because Chiron is this life, childhood, past lives, galactic wounds. So we could have been wounded in another life on another planet, and we are here to work through the physicality of what's coming up. So just trust yourself around that. If you're feeling dissonance in the body, dive into it, be curious and explore it with gentleness, and allow whatever comes up to heal. Because if you trust your intuition, you believe that what you're experiencing has validity, then you can really gain a lot of information and really heal around that. So this is going to be around issues of taking care of yourself and taking care of others. You really have to be able to take care of yourself, like in a way that you need to be nurtured, and then work with helping others. This is really where that Chiron is about helping ourselves and helping others based on what we learn. So we've got to really have this larger service to others as an aspect of ourselves. And
Mm.
giving can be very healing. So when we develop our skills around how we heal ourselves, then we can really help others out. And it's really the gift of this sixth house. That's really where we feel in alignment. And it allows us, as we heal, to not put people above us or below us and really create that judgment, but we can really see people as equals and how we can work together. And there also is a fear of expressing yourself because you're willing to take on the responsibilities of others and not attend to your own needs. So expressing yourself around your needs, around your body, and around that balance so that you can truly be service to others. Because if we're not taking care of our bodies, we're not having a good routine around our health and really healing ourselves and our needs, we cannot really be there. We cannot really show up in a way to help others. So important in that being of service is to be service to ourselves, and out of that overflow, then help other beings.
Can I share a few things that
Go
are
right
coming
ahead.
up as we wrap up? So two ways, right? Because if you're like myself and probably Jessica as well, you're like, well, great. Like I have all this information now. So how do I go about starting to heal these things, right? Jessica gave a lot of great examples throughout moving through the houses. So a book that I read that actually helped me so much, and I think I get to go read it again because obviously we're chatting about Chiron. It's on our hearts and our minds. It's called The Chiron Effect by Lisa Tahir. So it's Tahir. She goes through each sign, she goes through each house. And it's something that I'm continually going back to, right, in my own practice, with working with clients, but also with myself. Every time I read it, I feel like something else kind of jumps out at me. So that's one tool. And then the other thing that just keeps coming through is like ask the universe, right? If you're not sure like how these things play out in your life, right? We have blinders onto our patterns. So you might feel like a resonance, or you might feel that oh, like there it feels like there's something there with something that we shared. Trust yourself and ask the universe for support. Ask the universe for support with clarity and healing as well. Um, the universe will bring things forward, and you'll continue to develop that understanding around it as you continue to heal and step into your gifts, which, right, healing these wounds puts us in these area of our gifts. You know, it's they start out as these traumas and as these things that we struggle with, but as we heal them, they actually become things that we are naturally gifted at, right? Or maybe not naturally, right? Because we've had to go through the struggle, we've had to go through, but in some ways naturally gifted. Um, so yeah, just be gentle with yourself, and reach out to either one of us if you have any questions. There's a lot of information here with Chiron for sure. Anything else that popped up for you that you want to share?
Yeah, as I was going through, so I know that my Chiron is in the sixth house in Taurus, but as I was going through and kind of preparing for tonight, and even we were talking, like I can totally see how I have a little bit of each house or a little bit of each sign showing up. And so I just find that fascinating. And now I'm
Mhm.
like, not only do I do feel like I understand my placement a lot better and I've done a lot of healing around it. So now I'm like, okay, I want to kind of go through a little bit at a time, each house, each sign, and really see how I can balance some of that and how healing through the houses and the signs with Chiron can really kind of round out my life. Because, it transits. So it's going through these over time. It's activating different stuff based on where it is in our chart and where it is in the collective. So I just thought, oh, with Chiron playing such a huge role in the collective right now, and it's shining light on these different aspects in my life, like it might be fun to make that an activity maybe once a week, once a month, like whatever the flow feels good for me, to look in how I can shift and be open and really support myself around healing in these different areas of wounding that are all part of this human experience. So I'm like, for me, I always get really excited when it's like, here's a growth point. I'm like, I'm there. Like, let's do this. Like, party
Mhm.
on. So that's kind of where I'm feeling right now. It's just like it's okay if like your when you look at your chart, it's not exactly this, but other things resonated with you. Go with that because that's where the divine, the universe is saying, here's a growth opportunity. Maybe you want to jump on this. Be curious, be excited, like play with it and see how you can heal because we're healing our own, but each one of us is also healing aspects of the collective. So we don't have to understand where it's coming from. If we feel excited and we feel passionate about healing in this specific way, then hop on that and see where it goes. Just be super curious about it.
Right. And the other thing that, you know, you brought up such a great point, like when we feel that resonance, like part of it is because we're not linear beings where we're like, oh, this is the only thing of my life that this affects, it's only this house and it's only these themes. Like we're multifaceted, so it's going to have overlap. And then the other reason is because we do have both my God, my brain is like, we have both the transits that are activating our chart, right? Where the planets are in the sky right now, and where that's hitting our tiddly bits in our chart. But then we also have those aspects within our chart. So, like I shared, my Chiron is a really big point for me because I have a stellium in Taurus. I have my Mars and my Venus and my IC all together with my Chiron. So it's a lot of areas for me. Like it's in my fifth house, but it's a bigger energy for me because it's touching so many points, and then it's also creating other activations that I won't go into and bore you to death. But and if you want me to bore you, let me know. I'll share with you. But right, there's for some of us these wounds are going to be a bigger theme in our lives as we heal them and as we uncover them. So just like Jessica said, if it resonates, research it, allow yourself to continue to learn and to expand into it. So yeah, thank you all for spending this time with us. I certainly learned a lot. I feel like anytime we chat about, going through all the signs, I agree with you. It's like, oh yeah, like I can resonate with that. Like I have, this thing that I've struggled with. So it's also a reminder that we're all struggling with something. I think we can look at people and assume that, oh, well, they don't struggle with the same thing as me, so their life must be so much easier. No, we're all struggling with something. It just kind of pans out in a different way for most of us.
Yeah. Like Robin, I think Robin said it all. Like, thank you so much for being with us, for having this discussion. And we would love to hear like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit the notifications. Tell us, what does it feel like for your house, for your sign? Give us some information. We'd love to have a discussion around that. And then also, if there's other topics you feel really inspired, like, thank you so much. Tell me more about this, or I want to know more about that. Let us know, because, we are constantly in the flow with whatever's coming through and whatever's important. And that's what we want to share for you all. So thank you, everyone. Lots of love.
Thank you.
I can see the stars align, dance around the moon every night, and now my eyes are open wide, and the sky has never looked so bright. Now I don't need to see the road to believe,